So what is better, 3 minor pieces or a queen? Let's talk about that. So the answer to the question, what is better, 3 minor pieces or a queen, is going to be, it depends. Sometimes the 3 minor pieces are going to be better, and also in some other times the queen is going to be better. Thank you so much guys for watching. Like, subscribe. We see you in the next. Well, sorry for that. I thought it would be funny, and that's why I did it. But actually, in this video, we're going to talk about 3 minor pieces versus a queen. Very often the 3 minor pieces are better. Let me show you how that happens. Let me show you an example of when that can happen, and also how to play whenever that happens. But more importantly, at the end of the video, I'm going to show you an example where actually 2 minor pieces are going to be better than a queen in a normal position. Okay, there are no tricks, there is nothing like hidden. The 2 minor pieces are going to outplay the queen. We're going to see that here. So let's get into it. Let me show you this example first. Here in this position, white is playing the move e5, they are attacking the knight. And then black decided to play bishop to e6. After bishop e6, white saw this idea where they could get 3 pieces for a queen. And they thought it could be interesting. So let's see what happens. So they capture here, e takes f6, the bishop takes the queen, bishop takes e4, f takes e7. Now you are taking the rook and you're taking the bishop. So of course black doesn't want to lose the rook, so they take the pawn here. And then we have this move bishop takes c4. And then we have what we were saying, 3 minor pieces versus a queen. Then knight c6 was played, and then we have this position where it is white to move. So what happens here? Who's better? First of all, well, objectively, according to Engines, this position is evaluated as equal. So no one is better, it's just equal, okay? White can win if they play better, or black can win if they play better, right? So no one is better here, equal position. Now, for humans, at a human level, we should say that it might be easier to play with the 3 minor pieces. In general, as a general rule, the 3 minor pieces control more squares, and if you can connect the pieces and if you can find good squares like outposts or strong squares where they are safe and active, I mean for the minor pieces, then you will have very good possibilities, at least to get a good position. I'm not saying necessarily to win, but to get a good position. So that's the general rule. That's what I can tell you. In general, the 3 minor pieces are a little easier to handle if you can keep them active, controlling the squares. If you can target weaknesses, you have good possibilities with the 3 minor pieces. Let me show you even more. Let me show you what happened in this game, because also in this game, observe something. It's not 3 pieces versus a queen. It's 3 pieces versus queen and pawn. So you know, there's also a pawn, right? It's like even more than a queen, you know. So in the game, well, white decided to castle, and black plays knight b4, and then after this d3, and black plays c6. So what's the plan here? Just improve your pieces, right? Make your pieces better. And it's something that is going to be super easy for white. Just in every move, make one piece a little better. And there are more pieces, they control more squares. It's very easy to play in a situation like this one. Knight d4 was played, black plays here knight to d5. Bishop d2 was played, and then queen b6. Observe improvement per move. b4 was played here. And if black takes the pawn, we can play rook b1. There's a pin, and you will get the knight, so they cannot capture that pawn. So black plays here, rook a, d8. What do we play in this position? Well, we continue expanding, like a4, and black plays the move here, pawn to h6. You might be thinking, well, what about the capture? Why not taking the pawn now that you don't have a3 after the pin to capture the knight, right? Like knight b4, rook b1, a5. Now there is no a3. Why not taking the pawn? Well, if black takes the pawn, we have, boom, a5. Let me show you. Here, instead of rook a d8, sorry, instead of a6, if they take the pawn, you don't play rook b1, right? That's not very good. They can defend with a5. So now rook b1, just play, boom, a5. And now they cannot keep the knight defended. You're going to get a knight. So, that's the idea. Black plays a6 then, and we continue by improving pieces step by step. That's the plan in situations like this, where you have the 3 minor pieces. So rook fe1 is perfect, queen c7, a5, expanding, getting more space, and then rook f e8. What happens now? Well, you can play here the move d4. This is getting some squares for minor pieces. This is also making your bishop a little better. The game continues here with e6, and of course it's in general controlling the center and getting more space. Knight to e5. This is what we were saying. You get an outpost for your knight. Again, one of the tips for the player with the 3 minor pieces: find outposts for your pieces and go there with them. So that's what white is doing right now. f6, and then knight to d3. Observe how the pieces are very well placed. b6. After b6, knight to g3, and then queen to f7, knight to e2. I'm going to move a little faster now, so just to show you the idea of the game. So there are some maneuvers, but in general, white is improving per move, right? In every move there is an improvement. We need to say that black plays knight b4, and black resigned not letting white play. So let me show you why. In this position, white is getting the pawn on c5, and once they get the pawn, they are attacking the rook and they are getting the knight. So that's why black plays here knight b4, and immediately they resigned after that. You were making your pieces better all the time, and eventually white outplays black with this idea. The 3 minor pieces were actually easier to handle for the master with white. So that's the first example. 3 pieces, just improving step by step, finding outposts for the minor pieces, and also keeping the pieces connected and safe. That's the other thing we need to keep in mind when we have the 3 minor pieces. If you keep your pieces like disconnected and undefended, they are very likely you're very likely to lose a piece, because he has a queen, and with the queen there are many forks, many check and capture, things like that. So that's something to keep in mind. Keep all your pieces always interconnected and protected and active. That's the key for the player with the 3 minor pieces. Let me show you an example, because I mean, what I'm going to show you now is like crazy. I'm going to show you how in some position 2 minor pieces were able to beat a queen. And there's nothing like super special here. It's just 2 minor pieces in a mid game. I mean, of course there is something more, but when you look at the position, you don't see at first glance you don't notice anything special. So let me show you this amazing example by Nechmetdinov. He's a fantastic master, and in this game he's going to play something crazy, surprising, but also instructive, especially in this topic of 3 pieces versus a queen. This is going to be particularly instructive. So you can think a little on your own, but I'm going to tell you what happens in this position. The master plays the move queen takes f6, and that is that if black takes the queen, you're going to play bishop takes d4. You get 2 pieces for a queen, which is in general not enough, but this time it's going to be enough, because you also get other things. They are a little hidden, but they compensate. Black has development problems. The queen is a little out of play, but also you have such a great square here for your knight. From this square you will have such a nice pressure on f6, and this pressure is also meaning pressure on the enemy king, because you have knight and bishop controlling squares around the enemy king. That's why after this beautiful queen takes f6, black doesn't take the queen directly. They try to distract the knight a little, make the knight a little farther from d5. Of course, Nechmetdinov has to capture that knight, and now they will need 2 moves to come back to d5. Pawn takes queen, and those are precisely the next 2 moves for white. So knight c3, rook e8, and then knight to d5. How is this compensated? Well, observe you're losing 2 pieces for a queen. That's amazing. That's crazy. Again, king safety, great squares for your knight, for your bishop, also for the other bishop. Development problems, pieces not playing much, and that's the compensation. Weakness in dark squares, that's also something we need to highlight. So let's see what happens in the rest of the game. We should say that this is not winning for white. This is just compensated, right? So we don't say this position is winning. We say this is like equal, but there is more than enough compensation for white. So keep that in mind when you're evaluating a sacrifice of a queen for minor pieces. This time with 2 minor pieces you get enough compensation. Black plays here rook a6. I'm going to show you the rest of the game, but I'm going to advance more or less quickly. Basically the plan is improve your pieces, find outposts for your pieces, target the weaknesses, keep your pieces connected and grouped. So that's the idea. So let's see what happens in the next move. Bishop d4, not only improving the bishop, also you saw the arrows is creating some idea with the rook lift over the d file, putting pressure on f6 because f6 is a weakness now. So let's see what happens now. The plan we were saying. Now the game is going to get a little crazy. Some tactics over there. I don't want to get into the complications that much, but I just want to show you, for example, that if black takes the rook, you can play knight g4 check, and if black plays here like king f8, for example, you just grab the rook here. So yeah, basically the rook is not really getting the rook is not really getting it's not really working. So that's why black plays here bishop to e2 because they are more interested in this rook instead. But then knight h7 was played, king g8, and then there's this move rook to h3. Basically, there are ideas was made here on h8 by moving the knight or things like that. So the game continues here with rook e5, sacrificing the rook if they need, but also not losing by checkmate. So rook e5, f4, bishop takes f1, king takes, and then rook c8. The most important thing is that at some point we're going to see this idea. Okay, like rook c7, and I think it's going to happen right now. So here it is white to move. Neshmedinov found something crazy here. It's going to sacrifice more pieces. Let me tell you something. Right now we have 3 minor pieces versus a queen and a rook, right? So this is crazy. Now there are too many pieces what we're talking about for 3 minor pieces. I mean, it's a queen and a rook for 3 minor pieces. It's too much. But of course, here there are other factors that we need to evaluate, like king safety, like pieces activity, etc. But the thing is that in this position, Neshmedinov sacrifices even more pieces now, so he's going to play a beautiful combination, beautiful and famous combination. He plays here the move bishop takes f7, and then after rook takes s7, more or less forced, we have this beautiful boom, rook to h8. After king takes, you capture, and you capture here, and basically at some point you are going to lose the pawn, but then after king e2, this is winning for white because you have knight, you have bishop, and also you have a pawn versus a rook, which is more than decisively good or better for white. So that's what happens here. Knight, bishop, and pawn versus rook gives Neshmedinov the advantage. That's why this is winning. So summing up what we have seen here, the 3 minor pieces very often are going to be better than the queen. There are 2 rules that I want you to keep in mind. Number 1, find good squares for your minor pieces, like outposts or squares where your pieces are both safe and protected. The rule number 2 is precisely about protection. It's like try to keep all your pieces connected, defending each other. If you can do that, then you are not going to lose pieces with forks, with second captures, which are very typical and common tactics that your opponent is going to have with the queen on the board. So I hope this has been instructive. If it was like that, consider liking, subscribing, leaving a comment. That's all for today. Thank you very much. I catch you guys in the next.